So it's quite warm and it's still raining, so I'm going to try to talk to you before my non-waterproof camera gets too much water. But this is Dubrovnik, and first impression is that it's extremely cool to be here. I've been to cities before where sort of there's a castle that surrounds the city, but this really feels like the castle and the city itself are just woven together because everywhere are these walls. Yeah, it's just stunning. But arriving here, we came pretty late. The flight got delayed 4 hours, and that taught me a really key lesson on the importance of 24-hour hostel check-ins. I was looking at 2 hostels before booking. Yeah, one was a bit nicer, but it had a front desk that closed at 8 or 10 p.m. I think, whereas the one that I'm at now is 24 hours. And I didn't get here until probably 11 or 11:30, so I could have had a bit of a problem if I had booked the other one. But being cautious, I booked the one that's 24 hours. So luckily with this trip, I have a friend who's Croatian, and they were nice enough to message me a bunch of suggestions on where to go, so we're not going into it completely blind. From their list of suggestions, 2 big things stood out to me that I want to get to. The first is a basketball court, and the second is this viewing spot that you can get to either through a cable car or by walking. And given the walk is only an hour, I think we're gonna go for the walk. Okay, I'll tell you the rest later. Now that I sweat through my t-shirt, now's a good time to start recording. But this is the trail. Down there, right along that wall, down there, this whole thing is Dubrovnik, or like the old town of Dubrovnik. I guess all of this is technically part of the city itself, but old town. You can see the castle walls, town walls right there. Despite how disheveled I probably look right now, and sweaty, I have a Kit Kat. So a €1 Kit Kat and a 40-minute walk on this trail has brought us here. And honestly, €1, the amount of contentness that comes out of eating a little snack when you're on a hike like this, and the sun's coming out, look at that, what great timing. It's worth it, €1. It's a great return on investment. €1.20, I think this was, for some iced coffee. Dubrovnik apparently has a bit of infamy for being expensive, and the people I met in the hostel so far have said the meals cost anywhere from 20 to 32 euro for basic meals. So it seems like the hack is going to a grocery store. I'm about an hour away from somewhere to hide from the rain. And I keep wanting to stop to take a picture of this thing, of the view, but as you go up, the view just keeps getting better. And every one of these corners has a better view than the last, so I guess maybe I'll hold off on taking a picture until the top, see what it looks like up there. So I was just having a snack, and from here you can actually see the whole city walls. sounds in the background. So, if you didn't know, in the early 90s, Dubrovnik was under siege during a conflict between the Yugoslav army and the Croatian army. Now, conflict I know was a lot more complex and nuanced, but I don't know enough about it to intelligently talk on it. But just the fact that these city walls right here that were built in the 13th, 14th, 15th, up to the 17th century, hundreds of years ago, came under attack from modern weapons and modern explosives is really interesting to think about. And the fact that you can see footage of a fort basically being attacked is pretty wild. A little bonus fact is that the little fortress at the top of this that we just came from was built in the 1800s for Napoleon, and then the Austro-Hungarian Empire apparently took it over, and now it's Croatian. Not really used for the military anymore, I don't believe, but interesting how things change hands like that, or that this specific spot would have been talked about by probably like Franz Ferdinand and Napoleon maybe he even came here, I don't know. Kind of cool. Can't imagine him doing this hike though. Oh, looks like a tree fell down. Wonder if anyone heard it. Oh, no. Nice, welcome back. So I'm going to talk quite quietly so as not to disturb the peace of this area, but this is the city walls, it seems to be. Looking out on the water, and it's very calm. Not very many people here. I think I can only see like 2 or 3 at the end, or the other end of this thing, but this is going to be the first installment in a segment called Late Night Travel Thoughts. And this first thought doesn't originate from sitting here on a late night, where most of my thoughts come from. Instead, it's coming from the plane ride over here, because you know I really like planes. A bit too much, to be honest, but I like them. And the thought was basically the flight over here. I was a few rows back from the front, and I always get excited when I'm on planes. They're just fun to be on. What I recognized on this flight is ahead of me, for about 5 rows ahead of me, everyone who was on a window seat as we were taking off was looking out the window. And I think that relates to the fact that there's some sort of intangible excitement that comes with flying. But it feels like almost everyone has that sort of unique excitement that you feel when you're taking off and the ground's disappearing from below you and you're seeing a skyline from a view that you almost never see. But the reason I'm bringing it up in my own head, the reason I think we feel that way is because our brains are being put in a situation that they've never evolved to be in. We're at altitude that we just have no business being at. You know, a human being has no business being at 30,000 feet, 10,000 meters. And the reason why I bring up this feeling is because I think it's one of the core reasons why I am so in love with traveling, or why I enjoy traveling so much, is because I feel like I'm in circumstances that I have no business being in. You know, I'm from Vancouver. I have no business being in Dubrovnik and sitting on a castle wall that's older than Canada's existence. And I started thinking down this vein of how, as humans, the majority of humans that have existed, where they're from is where they stay. Just because it's never really been feasible. Of the 100 billion people that have existed in the history of humanity, the vast majority it was never a feasible option to leave where you're from. Anytime I travel to a new place, I have that feeling of wonder. And I think when I do travel, I get so much joy out of taking pictures of those travels or making a video out of those travels, because it's a way of capturing that wonder, that unique wonder feeling that I get on these trips that I can't really replicate when I'm in whatever home happens to be, whether that be in Vienna or Nuremberg or Vancouver. And I think I enjoy capturing it because I recognize at one point it won't be possible to do these kinds of trips, whether that be physically or financially or politically, who knows. Like maybe like just 30 years ago, like I mentioned earlier in the video, this place was under siege and you couldn't come here. So I think it's a way, these videos and the pictures I take of these places are a way of me trying to capture that wonder a bit as a future gift to myself. So if I'm watching this video in 40 years from now, you're welcome to myself. Thank you for coming to this episode of Late Night Travel Thoughts. All right, I think I'll cut it there. I see the battery's low. I should probably buy a second battery. I should probably buy a tripod. But for the price of those two things, I could do another trip. So, I don't know. We'll see. That is the end of Croatia. So thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you next time.